Welcome into the Oh Health Yeah podcast, brought to you by Healthy is Wellness. As you all know, our mission is to empower you to take control of your health and elicit a little bit of curiosity in your life when it comes to the world of wellness. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and if you have loved ones or friends that you think would benefit from this, share it with them. Let's get this thing going. Healthy is Wellness family, hello there. I am here with the founder of Healthy is Wellness, Dr. Nich Pertuit, and we're going to talk a little bit about why Nich started Healthy is in the first place. Nich, question for you. Why did you start Healthy is Wellness?
When I got married to Laura, my wife, the vow I made to her was to keep the pen in her hand as she wrote the story of her life. I thought that for the person that I loved more than anything on the face of this planet, that was the best thing I could promise her was, I want you to write the story of your life. I want you to be in control of what happens next and not have it stripped away. I've long disliked bullies. When I was a kid, I didn't like when people picked on other people or somebody used something to take away somebody's autonomy or power. And as I got older and fell out of the sports world and into the wellness world, what I recognized that one of the main things that was stripping most people of them being the author of their own life were things like chronic diseases or things that they could prevent but maybe didn't know how. And you hear it mirrored in our mission. Our mission is to empower people to take control of their health and therefore their life. Meaning I saw that a lot of people, unfortunately, were going to be living lives where they didn't feel like the author. They felt like a character in a book that somebody else was writing. And part of let's call it God's calling, because I was pretty happy being a college professor and having summers off and stuff like that, was that we could do more. We could take what I had learned in the sports world, the technologies, the measurements, how you can give information back to people and give it in an empowering way. But the ultimate goal of Healthy Is was to fulfill that same promise that I made to Laura, which is I think everybody should have the opportunity to write the story of their life. And if health was one of the things stripping that away, and we had the opportunity to help people take back control of that, that's the origin of Healthy Is and why it all got started.
That's perfect. Was there ever a point that you were like, okay, this is an actual business. Like, this is a business that I can take on, because you had that dream and you had that mission. At what point were you like, okay, this could actually be something? Was there like a certain incident or?
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't have a background in wellness, and I didn't understand that corporate wellness was even a thing. And so when I was teaching at Rocky Mountain College, I had moved back to Montana simply to be back in Montana, Florida. And I was a head strength coach for university. I was teaching part-time at one university and full-time at Rocky. And it wasn't until I experienced my first ever wellness, screening of my own, where I walk in, they asked me to step on a scale. I'm 5'11", about 200 pounds. They're like, okay, you're overweight. Okay, that was great. Metric yeah, context. Yeah. And then, I sit down, and as they're drawing blood from one arm, they're putting the blood pressure cuff on the other arm. And then when we get done with that, which of course that's not going to be accurate, they asked me to lift up my shirt so they can measure my waist. I'm thinking, man, this is what corporate wellness is. Like we have such better things. And then not long after that, I was asked by the president of the college to give us a talk about what we did in sports, how we use technologies and ongoing measurements to be able to influence outcomes. Outcomes in sports are like win more games, make more money, right? Reduce injuries. But we never mistook measurements with the outcomes themselves. Measurements like measuring your speed or your flexibility, your mobility, all these things, they were indicators to say, is what I'm doing working towards the progress these goals I'm trying to accomplish. So I gave it that speech, quick on the heels of like having my own experience in corporate wellness. And one of the business owners there, actually it's Master Luke here in Billings, he asked, could we do something like that with my employees? And to which I said something like, what? Like, what? And I realized that most corporate wellness was a once a year screening, and it didn't influence people's behaviors. And I thought health is what you do, not what you are. It's a verb. And as I started to work with that population, then we started to pitch this to a couple other groups. I actually thought Healthy Is would be a master's program at Rocky. I wanted to build it into a master's program where we would use students to go out on site and work with different businesses. And so, a few businesses into doing that, I pitched this idea to Rocky Mountain College. It didn't go through with the faculty. They didn't like the idea of that becoming a master's program, to which the president of the college said, well, why don't you just do it on your own? And again, the timing is not all mine. Quick on the heels of that, the city of Billings signed up with us, and I was able to hire my first employee and realized this is an actual business. And so worked to make a logo of a person running out of a book. I won't tell you the ideas of the logos I had because Laura, I'll pick that one out and bring it. But anyway, it never was this moment of like I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to start a corporate wellness business. It was more the happenstance of what happened and an opportunity that I couldn't ignore.
Mm. It's cool. It's cool to hear like the background of why and the why behind the whole thing. The assessments that you guys provided, that we provide, are so dang cool and amazing. What I love about what we do is the one-on-one coaching side of things.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned like wellness was blood pressure, wellness was a figure of blood prick or whatever it was,
Yeah.
venipuncture, whatever it's called. But with us, we provide that one-on-one coaching. And what made you decide to prioritize the one-on-one coaching for Healthiest? Like what pushed you to do that? Because I think that's something that's a staple of what we do.
Yeah, again, going back to in sports, measurements were never confused with outcomes. What I mean by that is, I saw so many people defining their health by a measurement. It was their weight, or it's their cholesterol level, or they go to the doctor and that's what they're told, right? Hey, I have my A1C is too high, so I need to take a medicine, and that medicine will lower this number. Now, all that's correct. The medicine might help lower the number, but that's not what health is, right? Healthy is not some number. And so I remember writing down, well, what is healthy? And as I wrote down, well, healthy is, doing one push-up, or healthy is bench pressing 250 pounds. Healthy is playing with your kids. Healthy is waking up in the morning and feeling refreshed. And as I started writing out what healthy is, it became apparent to me that, well, healthy is a verb. It's not a state to get to. It's why, I think people like money because money gives intrinsic control. Like it's a form of empowerment. If I have money, I can do whatever I want with my time, or I can. There's no constraints on me. Is the perception is why we like it. But the reality is, you see people that are very poor and people that are very rich, and you see really happy people and really sad or depressed people. Right? Suicide rates happen in both categories. And what I realized was health is not some number or some state or some objective thing that you can grab. To me, healthy became something that you do. And hence, unless you turn knowledge into action, hence the person running out of the book, then you haven't helped anybody, right? Knowing what to do is not the problem. Everybody's heard stress less, sleep better, eat healthier, right? How do I do that? Given the constraints of my life. And so one of the biggest things that we wanted to push was our coaching is not just there to say what to do. It's to say, do you understand what these results mean to you in context of your goals? And then how can I help you is not something that can be universally just given to everybody. It's how can I help you given where you're at today? Because where you're at today could be different than tomorrow. And so our goal with LDS has always been, we don't think there's a single recipe or formula for health, but rather, how can I empower you to take one step to feel more in control of your health? Or how can I help you stay in control if you already feel in control? Or how can I help you feel heard and cared about? Or how can I raise awareness to get you to think about something in a slightly different way? I'd ask you the same question as you thought about our coaching program. What is it that stands out that's different compared to other ways that you've heard help talked about?
I think the thing about Healthiest is the connection, the one-on-one in-person connection. I think that's something that as a business we've stood on for a long time, of sitting next to somebody like this one-on-one and interacting with them. And I think one of the most important things and the biggest values that we provide to the people that we service is an interaction and an ear, no matter where they're at in their life. Just like you said, we want to help them. But being able to sit down with somebody and truly feel where they're at allows us to help them in the best way possible.
Yes.
And I think that's what means a lot to me when it comes to Healthy as Wellness, is the one-on-one coaching and the in-person interactions. Is there a certain interaction that sticks out with you from your past, like whatever session it is? There one section that's like, wow, that meant the world.
Yeah, there's several. I want to make a comment first of COVID was such an interesting time that it allowed such a social experiment to occur that we learned a lot from. And one of the things that I thought was interesting was depression rates went up, anxiety rates went up. And one of the things that I think happened was we were no longer interacting face to face with people, and not just big interactions, but what are called like micro interactions. In other words, that little smile you get, somebody hands you your coffee, or as you walk down the street, and those micro interactions, I believe, have unbelievable effects on us. And when those were taken away, something happens to us. As humans, we're meant to be social. We're designed to move and interact with one another. And so to me, I like that you called out, like, it is face to face. Like, we can augment with technology tools or augment with, virtual type coaching. But I think there's something very special when you sit down, and the science behind it says the same thing. There's something happening when you sit down with somebody physically in the same room, or you're near somebody and you're focused on them. There actually is energy being passed between us that's measurable. And I believe that affects our health and our well-being. To the interaction that maybe stands out most to me, we were at a school district. It was the early days. In fact, I might have been a student at the time. And there was a wife that worked at the school, and she had been talking about, I need my husband to come see you guys. I would love for my husband to come see you guys. At the time, we had the old Airstream. I'd borrow somebody's vehicle to pull that thing around. And we just had the body composition machine, and we'd give out general advice to people as they come through. But we'd sometimes do one-on-one or group coaching sessions. But the goal is just to make an impact for people. And it took months, but finally she got this guy to show up, and he walked up, and you could tell he didn't want to be there, right? There's no part of him that wanted to be there. And he walks up, and he's kind of limping, and I said, hey, so great to see you. Your wife had told me that maybe you want to get a knee surgery. I would love to talk to you about that. And he in a very grumpy voice says back to me like, no, you're going to say the same, and then I won't use the words he used, stuff that the doctor said. And he's like, look, they told me to lose 57 pounds, and how can I lose weight if I can't move? Right? My knees hurt. I need knee surgery. And he goes, I know what you're going to tell me. You're going to tell me the exact same thing they told me, which is, don't drink beer, don't eat pizza or ice cream. And I don't want to live that way. And I said, great. I love that you don't want to live that way. How about we make a deal out the gate? I'll never tell you to give up ice cream or beer or pizza, but I promise you there's a path to help you lose 57 pounds if you want it. And he looked at me kind of in shock, and we got him on the InBody, showed him how much muscle was already on his body. And we just took on small behavior changes. In fact, he took on 2. He started paying attention when his last calorie came in. I didn't take away, right? I didn't ever came ice cream or beer. And he wait 12 hours till he started calories the next day. And then the second thing he took on a month into that was he wanted to reduce sugar out of his first meal of the day. The first month, I forget what it was. I think he lost, I don't know, somewhere in the 7 to 10 pound range. But, 5-6 months into this, making only 2 changes, not stripping his life. He came in one time, and actually makes me emotional to think about it. He was like, they scheduled the surgery, and he goes, he gives me this big burly hug, and he says, hey, this changed my life. And I realized then we could change the paradigm around health to be, what? We can give that back to a lot more people. They've just misdefined what health is. And it's not giving up everything you love in life. In fact, it's adding color back to life is what this thing is all about. Right?
That's so cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
I've heard
it a few times, and it always gets better because it shows how true you stay to our mission, what you believe, and what this business believes as well. I'll share one of my favorite. Well, I have a few favorites, but one of the favorite coaching session interactions that I've had was actually over the course of like 3 years. We had a gal that worked for the City of Millings that would come in and see us, and she would see us on a monthly basis. And there wasn't a ton of change occurring when it came to the assessments or the tools. But as you said, health isn't just defined by the numbers on the machine. It's a verb. It's who they are as a person. It's their smile.
Yep.
And she continued to come in, and she actually lost her spouse. And she would come in and see us every month. And she sometimes wouldn't get on the InBody. Yep. She would do grip strength, but we'd sit down and chat. Yep. And we talk about how can you take that control, whether that's stress reduction, whether that's sleep.
Yep.
And as years have gone past since she lost her spouse, she's lost like 30 pounds of body fat. Yeah. She's lost visceral fat. She's lost inflammation. But one of the most powerful things she said to me was that she would not be earned if how it business wasn't huge. And that is not defined by any number. That's defined by the interaction and being there with someone. And I think that's truly what Healthy is Wellness is about, is being present with the person across from you and helping, which is exactly what you do with that. John,
that to me is the epitome of what we want to do for people. Too many people believe health is like taking all the things away. We believe it's giving you back flight. And that makes me really happy to tell that story because I believe if we can get that message out to more people, this idea that like health is not some number that's going to get measured by any machine. I think we bring really cool machines. I think we're bringing some cool technology to the table, measuring people's mobility, because if you lose the ability to move, you don't get to interface with the world around you. Even if we bring all those measurements to the table, if we don't look people in the eyes and say, I see you, I care about you, you matter, and that's what we're really trying to get across. Like, that to me is one of the most important things we can do with health. And it's not just us saying that, like that Harvard research, that's the longest, longitudinal study on health span and lifespan. The number one predictor of long-term health and lifespan was the social connection somebody has in life. Do you have somebody you can trust, right? And we can help launch that just as much as we can help fat loss or something like that. We can help launch this idea that you do matter and we care about you. And that's why I love the idea of that. Our main methodology is how do we get other humans to.
It's huge. I love it. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your podcast streaming app of choice. and enjoy the health out of your day.